Hello and welcome to the Unnamed Reverse Engineering Podcast. I am your host, Alvaro.
And I'm Jen. Woo!
Happy 50th episode, or beginning our 50th. Let's not celebrate till we finish it, but yeah.
It's 4 years. We have now been doing this for 4 years. How do you feel? Do you feel older?
I mean, I am.
Okay, yeah, technically we are older.
I was in my 20s when we started.
I'm still in the same decade I was in. Go figure.
Time hasn't changed. We're good.
We're fine. I think you've had more hip problems than I have.
Well, both of my hip surgeries happened before the podcast, thankfully. But yeah.
I'm still waiting for my hip surgery. I know it's predestined, though. So
the later you can, unless you have to do it, I just push it. If it's a replacement. If it's a repair, then do it as soon as you can. But for replacements, those are kind of a subscription model.
Are these your hip hacks for the future?
Oh no, yeah, we're already derailed. So what has not changed?
We still giggle. We still get wildly off topic.
And well, I should say that, Jen, you have here on the notes, you want to cover some things that have changed, but stay the same. So what stay the same? We still don't know what we're doing.
New thing that we've added, I just upgraded my microphone. Not because of the podcast, but because of the other stuff that
say it's because for the podcast.
Okay, yes. I care about you guys so much.
Yeah.
That I've upgraded my podcast so I don't sound low, because my previous one, which was a Blue Yeti, I would hit the edges, like the dynamic range, so easily. So on lows and highs.
Hitting that button on it, and then it was like
well, no, that's just like getting the right what the heck is the thing called? Anyway, I have another one here on the new one too.
Yeah, so. So 50 episodes. So we're averaging slightly more than one a month, which it's not bad.
We've gotten better this past year with the Patreon.
Oh, you know what we should have done that it's too late to do now, but we could have done some statistics as to hey, this is how many minutes of show we had or how many guests we had on. But we're gonna have to do that for the 100 episode, I guess.
Well, I do have metrics here. So
you do?
I do have metrics.
Cool.
One thing that I learned that maybe is kind of giving some perspective here, and this is probably more humble bragging than anything else. So what I learned is that if you have in the first 7 days, so these are your metrics for the first 7 days. So this applies to any podcast. So if you're wanting to do a podcast and you want to know whether it's worth it or not, or whether you're reaching people and you just want to be able to say to whoever maybe wants to be a sponsor, in the first 7 days, if you get 26 downloads, you are already in the top 50%.
26?
Yes.
Okay, so that's a very low bar, but
that's a very low bar. We blew that out of the water on the first try. So I
guess that's above family and friends level.
Yeah, I guess so. If you get above 72 downloads in the first 7 days, you're in the top 25% of podcasts. If you get more than 231 downloads in that same time period, top 10%. And if you get over 539 downloads in the first 7 days, you are in the top 1%. We've been pretty, maybe in the early, ones, we weren't hitting that, but we've been pretty consistently hitting over 500 in the first 7 days for quite some time. Definitely with Jerry's and
Rick's. Jerry and Rick have the most.
Yeah, by far.
Yeah.
And that said, on average, we're getting like our last podcast, it went over 800 downloads
in the first 7 days.
In the first 7 days.
Yeah, I think eventually they mostly get over 2,000 after a while.
Yeah.
And then there's Jerry and Rick that get 5,000.
Well, yeah, it's 3,200, 3,400, something like that. I'm not going to overstate it. We've already lost our audience just talking about this. Because this is only something that we care
about. We're back in the 50%.
Anyway, we're back. They're I've stopped listening after this.
Anyway, reverse engineering, yes.
So let's see. Top things that have changed. In 2020, so when we started out, people were trying to figure out how to reverse engineer FPGA bit streams. And in 2020, they were able to do that on at least one family of FPGAs. So that's a big change. cryptocurrency is now pretty common.
I was coming back then. It's just now popular. Like
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
I had coworkers mining Litecoin and Bitcoin in like 2014
Yeah, yeah,
kind of
but it's
thing.
no
But
longer like it used to be. Like you could do it and you could easily
you
make
could mine
some
it
money.
yourself at home. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. If you were willing to like the offsets, it was still feasible.
But
Now
now there's crypto miner. Well, the
there's
crypto
farms.
miners. There's ransomware
Hmm.
that's kind of picked up in the past few years.
Yeah, yeah. I've definitely been learning. Whose podcast was I listening to where they were talking to people who went to a conference who basically learned about how to get how the ransomware really works, which is, hey, maybe you work for the NSA, but they're not going to pay you extra for finding these backdoors. So if you just do it like in your private time, release that and then sell it back to a government, you'll make way more money.
I actually have a book recommendation about it. I just
Oh, yeah,
finished
yeah,
it
yeah, yeah.
yesterday,
Okay.
and it's by Nicole Perlroth.
Hmm.
The name of the book is "This Is How They Tell Me the World Ends," and I
Hmm.
actually discovered it because of the Darknet Diaries
Yes.
podcast,
I
which is an
also.
amazing podcast. But she was a guest
Hmm.
on the podcast, and then I just went and read her book, and it's about how exploit like the marketplace for vulnerabilities has exploded because of nation states buying them, and everything that goes around it. Like exactly what you say, where if you work at the NSA, you might as well quit, start your own company, and sell the same exploits you were developing right back to them, or just resell, like buy it from someone else and then sell it to government, and you can make a shit ton of money that way. So this book is about that and how we're all worse off for it.
Yeah, basically, just because of the microeconomics of it, just don't make sense for an
Well, like
individual.
we as taxpayers everywhere, we're paying for it, but also we're leaving all these open holes
Hmm.
that other people can use. But yeah.
So I was just a quick question. Did you listen? Did you read the book or did you listen to the audiobook?
Oh, I listened to the audiobook. I
Okay,
don't.
I have
Yeah.
to ask, how bad was the audiobook? Because what I heard when I looked at the reviews for the audiobook, I heard a lot of complaints about.
The I've had better narrators
Okay,
before,
okay.
but yeah, I mostly listen to audiobooks in general,
Hmm.
and some of the pronunciation of certain names or
Yes, I
places
heard skiff.
was really bad.
I heard, yeah,
But
I heard it was very cringy in that regard, so I avoided.
I also listen at almost like 1.75x or something, so it just kind of goes goes through pretty
Oh.
quick.
Is that
But
your own personal hack? Just go
well, for
fast.
podcasts, I'm almost up to 2x. Depends on who's speaking. But yeah, no, when I was on Embedded FM last time
Hmm.
and they were recording the intro, it was very weird. Like, you're speaking so slow. And I think I told them it was, yeah. But yeah, the content, I mean, for some of the folks that are covering or into kind of security and reverse engineering on the, vulnerability malware kind of thing, I a lot some of it might be kind of stuff you already know, but I think in general is super interesting in how kind of I didn't know the reversing or the vulnerability scene in Argentina is huge as far as making
Hmm.
money. That was news to me and pretty interesting, but it kind of makes sense.
I, I I always think it's a great idea when engineers, because we like systems, when we look at systems that are not necessarily technology based, to understand how they're influencing the bigger picture, like why something is done this way or how do we arrive here, because the economics of the situation are surprisingly making a big impact in this particular case.
Yeah.
Let's see what else. Okay, things that weren't like 4 years ago as prevalent, like you know, I think you and I probably grew up reading lots of sci-fi, and there was always a discussion about how misinformation and disinformation were going to be used. There were lots of theories about this, and now you know, 4 years ago was almost kind of the start of when misinformation was really starting to take off.
Oh, it's been happening for
Yeah,
like decades. We just know about it.
in a different way. Like, yeah, yeah. Okay, so okay, so you would have like governments that would have particular departments that were special, that were
Propaganda.
yeah, yes, specifically private. We knew that that was the case, but but these days it's not.
Automated.
It's well, it's automated, and it's taken off that like once governments kind of seed something, now you're the citizens, like everyday people can take care of like propagating it for you. You don't have to do that much work. And I think that's the Russians basically took advantage of that. It's like they
That's in
seeded
the
it.
book as well.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Sounds like I really just got to bite the bullet and just get it.
Or just
It's
read it.
well, how much time are you spending? I have like all these books backed up that I'm trying to read through, and it's just
Well,
not
I
happening.
have to limit my computer use
Mhm.
because it hurts. So
Yeah, yeah.
I tend to, well, I have to take every 50 minutes, like 50. I usually take a 10-minute stretch break
Hmm.
whenever I'm on the computer, just to kind of keep the pain at bay, basically.
Yeah,
And I do physical therapy and stuff. So whenever I'm doing stretches, I start playing the book or a podcast. And then whenever I'm walking, I don't have a car anymore. So whenever I'm walking to the grocery store or biking
yeah,
around, I'll have books going, or
yeah,
just, and I live alone, right? So I'll just, whenever I'm just doing stuff, I'll play things. And that's why I'm been reading a lot or listening a
yeah.
lot.
I do that a lot too. And then one of the other things that we were at a conference together, and somebody was talking about how they were using, and I'm talking to this. People are talking about how they were for years that they were using the bone conductive headphones so they could hear other people talking to them, but then also get constantly a low
Oh no,
level
this was an
murmur.
in-ear one. I know
Okay.
what you're talking about.
Yeah,
Yeah.
you know the guy I'm talking about.
But speaking of bone conducting,
Yeah.
Alex Glavinsky, that
Hmm.
has been in the show before,
Yeah.
and well, yeah, she recommended these bone conducting ones because you
Hmm.
can just wear them all day,
Yep.
and it doesn't block your ears, so it's still
Yeah.
safe if you're outside.
It's legal in California for you to wear while on your bicycle. That
And
is,
legal or not, it's just safer. Like
yeah.
you don't lose situational awareness. It's
Hmm.
not great for music,
No, it's not.
but well, because I used to have them
Yeah.
back 2012. I think I bought them when I used to go biking around, and it's like I
Hmm.
want to be able to listen to audiobooks but still be aware of my
Hmm.
surroundings. And they had to recharge. They had a separate
Yeah.
battery, and
Yeah.
but
Yeah.
now
Yeah.
they're
Yeah.
like wireless. They last
Yeah.
all day. So those are cool.
I need to get your recommendation because the ones I have, like the buttons are in such a location that it's rubbing against my ear, and I need a better recommendation there. But
Which one
anyway,
do you
so
have?
some Chinese knockoff brand that doesn't
Oh no,
cost
yeah,
more
these
than
are
50
these are
bucks.
not cheap, but they're good.
Okay, you have to put your recommendations on the show notes. I demand it. I mean,
Well, I
please.
need to buy it first. This is just what they recommended.
Okay, okay,
Let's see the aftershocks with a
okay.
Z.
Yeah. Okay, you'll put it in the show notes. Alex's recommendations for the future to like sneak in lots of information all the time. Although that being said, I have been experiencing informational overload because I'm always listening
Oh
usually to
yeah.
podcasts and there's just never any mental downtime and it's definitely affecting my productivity in
Well, I
terms
think
of like
that's
staying coherent and remembering what I was doing in terms of context switches. Also,
I yeah, I've had problems in the past because of it. Yeah.
also kudos to you for actually doing the 50 minutes and then the stretch time
Oh, I have
because I'm
software for
supposed
it.
I'm yeah, well I have software too. I just fucking don't, well, because when you're in the middle of like doing something crucial that requires attention and you get that fucking thing and it took you so long to get rid of like all the
Oh, I
other
know.
pain. Oh my god,
Yeah, no,
swear to
I
god, if
mean,
I could hack through that I would.
well, sometimes I'll click through it, but then it starts hurting, and it's just
Hmm.
like
Oh
shit. I
yeah,
shouldn't
yeah,
have
yeah.
done that.
Yep.
Yeah, 100%. It sucks.
Okay, once again I think we've lost the
Oh, yeah.
feel free to call us out on Twitter for being annoying and not actually staying on the topic.
What
Studio,
topic?
the audience.
Um, sad news.
Oh,
We should do a little memorial for
mm.
Alsa's Smokehouse, where we used to
Oh
host
yeah,
the reverse engineering, the Mountain View reverse engineering meetup. The meetup's still alive, but the place we used to host it at just shut down last weekend,
yeah.
unfortunately.
Why?
So
Because they could not find employees.
I think that's what they said. But either way, it was a lovely place. We're gonna miss the smoky smells and the barbecue and the crowded back room.
And the
Uh,
did you have a favorite dish
I
there? What
always
was
got
your
the
good?
pulled pork.
I
Now we're
oh
talking about food.
yeah, I know, but we talked about the same thing when John McMaster's was on here. Like my
Yeah,
personal favorite, what I'm gonna miss is their pork on pork, which is basically freshly made pork rinds with the pulled pork on top,
yeah.
and then and then it just crinkles like crazy. Also, that I love that those sets of employees that work there at Alice's because we'd be like putting up all this technical stuff, and then they would be watching. They would be learning right along with us. I was kind of surprised that they would sit there and just be like, okay, yeah, that's how you hack that chip. Okay, cool. So yeah, so definitely gonna miss them. Let's see what else we have. Okay, we talked about podcasts. Oh, this is very belated because they have pushed past this. But Hackaday started their podcast a little bit after us, maybe 6 months after. They
Yeah, but
have
they
long,
record on the regular.
they're on a weekly cadence and they're keeping track of like
They have
news.
discipline.
Yeah, Chris Gamble would probably be like, tisk tisk, y'all did not, you're not disciplined, and I'm like, eh.
Yeah.
Sometimes you got to do like you try to
Hey,
put together something topical on reverse engineering. See, we're struggling already.
at least we're doing it. Well, I'll be honest. Like, there's plenty of people we like. People have suggested guests, and we just need to get around to talking to them. It's to me that's the hardest part is the actually reaching out to someone and then finding a time.
Yeah,
The actual recording is the easiest part, I think, and then the editing is a little bit more work, but it's not a huge deal.
yeah,
I feel like the biggest hurdle, at least for me, is just the reaching out to people.
yes. That said, um, sometimes it's like the medium that we have to go through to reach out to guests. So today, for example, I reached out to someone. I had to reach out to someone on Twitter. Could not DM them, so now I got to do it in basically in the Twitter streets. Yo, we'd like to have you on the show.
Slide
DM me
into.
if you're interested. I can't. Yeah, I can't just slide into everyone's DMs because not
Did you
everyone
do it
wants to.
with your own account or with a podcast
With
account?
the podcast account, I want to give them a heads up. But that's basically. I mean, should I use the audio for it? Hey yo.
I don't know. So. Oh, can you do audio tweets now?
I mean, on my, I think I've done one. I
Is it
can't.
just like a little snippet of audio?
Yeah, you just because I've been trying to use it more on my personal account because
Yeah.
it's. But so particularly if I have Friday statements, I try to use audio for that. But let me look really quick.
Yes, because well, I was gonna mention.
Yeah, oh no, I do. I could do one right now.
Let's do it. Just do it
Okay.
live.
Okay, I'm recording. We're recording the 50th episode right now, and we wanted to check whether we had the audio podcast feature or not on our podcast account. Do we? Yes. Alvaro, no one's gonna be able to hear you. Did you want to say something?
Nobody can hear me scream.
Okay, no one
Um,
can hear you scream. Should I stop it? Because this is
sure.
okay.
It's gonna be a little cryptic.
Done. don't
But I
don't listen to this. Tweeted.
uh, so well. Speaking of, I did want to highlight. I did see on Twitter
Yeah.
now. There's a thing called Twitter Spaces, I guess, and it's basically a like a clubhouse clone, which is audio, like a little audio chat rooms so that you can
Mm-hmm.
just you can't chat on text, it's just voice. And I'm gonna butcher the pronunciation, but Jiska on Twitter
Mm-hmm.
and Stack Smashing, who's a Ghidra ninja,
Yeah.
did a reverse engineering adventures, if you want to call it, space
Mm-hmm.
on a few days ago,
Mm-hmm.
and I hopped on for a bit, and it was really cool chatting. They were talking about different tools and
Mm-hmm.
projects, and for anyone, it was 8 p.m. I think Berlin time. So for us West Coasters, it was kind of like early in the morning. But if anyone is on Twitter and enjoys reverse engineering, check out whenever they do those again. It was a good crowd of folks, and I found out about some new tools and stuff. So props to Ghidra Ninja, and I'm just gonna link to to
Is their name Ghidra Ninja, or are they just self-proclaim
the
themselves as?
name is Ghidra Ninja on
Okay.
Twitter,
Okay.
and then the actual name they have is Stack Smashing, and
Okay.
it's verified.
Okay. I'm
Yeah,
not verified.
yeah, it was great chatting with them.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Nice. But that kind of brings up a point that, like, things that have kind of stayed the same is talking about reverse engineering in an audio medium. Bleeping hard.
Yeah,
And I think we've gotten,
concur.
yeah, I think we've gotten audience. You'll have to subscribe, respond, whatever. We're so bad at social media.
Oh,
We have
that
not.
hasn't changed.
Yeah, we haven't gotten we haven't gotten any better there. Um, I think of the things that we've evolved on during the point of this podcast is we've tried to help our guests be better storytellers. Maybe that sounds wrong. Maybe we have to edit this out. I don't want to insult our guests, who we're exceedingly grateful to being on here and sharing their expertise. The one thing that's really difficult is because we're in an audio medium, and I don't know everything, you don't know everything. Slowing people, our guests down to explain some of the background on some of the words that they're using is super important, and making it feel like our audience and us are right there with them to kind of really benefit from the learning. Otherwise, we end up with the popular mechanics style of storytelling, which is it's great. We're hearing about techno stuff flying across our faces and ears, but it's hard to absorb. So I think in the last year or so we've tried to um, encourage our guests to slow down a little bit so we can ask those critical questions so everyone comes along for the ride. If that has not been effective for you guys, or you think it's bleeping annoying, let us know.
Yeah, I mean that is something I would say it's our strength is asking the questions everyone's thinking because
Yeah.
half the time we're like, I don't know what you're talking about.
uh,
What does this word mean?
yeah.
Or I personally feel like that's me.
Well, that's part of the reason why we started the podcast, was to
Yeah,
get a handle on this.
to ask those questions that everyone
Mm-hmm.
else is thinking, but
Too
too
afraid to
afraid to
ask.
ask.
Yes. I definitely think that's our superpower. What else? Like, have you evolved on what you think reverse engineering is during this time?
I mean, a little bit, I guess, and it's just more talking to people, and when we have to explain it is when you have to think about like, wait, what
Yeah.
is reverse engineering? And it's just the thing I always tell everyone that most of us are reverse engineers in one way or another.
Yeah.
If you've ever had to uh, repair anything, like I like to use like if you're in a farm and your tractor doesn't work, you got to fix it, and you don't
Yep.
have the manual, you just like reverse engineer what's wrong with like and sort of repair debugging. I mean, with food and like recipes, and you're like, oh, I wonder what ingredients are in here, right? Um,
There's shows on that now.
oh no, we've talked about it. It's on YouTube, yeah. Um, yeah,
Nope,
so
no,
so
there's a show on regular TV that's just like it's like crime scene food or something, like where you taste something and you have to reverse engineer based on tasting it.
oh yeah, because there's one on YouTube. Bon Appetit, I think they have a reverse engineering little sideshow there. But
We
yeah,
want to get
so just I think that it's not as all technology or security as some people think it. And actually, I was talking to one of our listeners the other day, and we were talking about because we like on the podcast we talk about reverse engineering in a lot of cases is security related, right?
Yeah.
But what he was saying is there's other kinds of reverse engineering. He was talking about for reusing and repairing, recycling things, right? Where like something's not working, or if it is working, but you can reverse engineer it to make it work again, or make it work in a different way instead of throwing it out.
Yeah.
And another thing that I think it's big, and that's where our friend Tube Time US is
Yep.
kind of prolific in, and it's in the retro computing and basically getting old hardware, figuring out how it works, or making new versions of it, but with the old hardware, and just getting that stuff working. And that's all reverse engineering. And I don't think I explained what reverse engineering is, but that's that's kind of where my brain went.
Well, I think you've always, and correct me if I'm wrong, you've always talked about it from the point of view is like we're always practicing because we're basically debugging, and it's just debugging without sanctioned information,
Without documentation, yeah.
Yep. And I can't agree more. There has been nothing that's been out of my realm of understanding. It's just been, there's these tools that can really help you look in more, see more, fill in it. the research for finding data sheets has never, I haven't found anyone who's been like, magical in terms of finding, dealing with that better than I have in the past. So I guess there's that aspect. But, as you just mentioned, there's reverse engineering for other reasons. And I think you're looking at maybe bringing some of these people on that you just referenced in there. So I'm just going to
Someday, yeah,
yeah,
for
I'm just
sure.
gonna like
Well, we definitely need to have Eric on. Like,
yeah,
it's yeah. I
past
just feel
time.
like that. Well, and it's probably like 10 episodes. We could. He's a wealth of information. So
Yeah, and I guess the question is when we're recording with Eric, will he be? What shape will his face be? What filter will he have on?
yeah, people aren't in on the joke, but yeah. But well, you two, you both like using whatever weird video
Snapchat.
filters,
Yeah,
Snapchat filters. I am very vanilla video. I'd show my face like a normal person.
yeah. Let's see what else. Do you have a favorite moment from the last 4 years?
I assume podcast related, right?
Yeah.
Uh,
Yes.
uh,
That time when COVID happened, that was my favorite.
yeah, well, how about that time I quit my job to go traveling, and a week later we were in lockdown? That was a good one. No, I've had a chance to like we interviewed some really awesome folks, like a lot of my kind of heroes, if you will.
Yeah,
We've gotten a chance to talk to them, and that's been super cool.
it's
Also,
been
just
amazing. Yeah, especially
yeah,
I'm still amazed when they show up on our Patreon, our Discord at
yeah,
all.
on the Discord, but just like they're like, yeah, I'll talk to you, and then we get to chat, and it's great. And also, it doesn't happen much, but the few times I've been recognized, either at conferences,
Yeah.
or like at a ferry terminal going to a conference, it's just such a weird feeling in a like a
I
funny, wonderful way.
I think it's because you're loud. I don't think.
Well, yeah, no, but people do. It's more the voice. Like someone
Yeah,
was
it is
standing
the voice.
behind me, and they're like, "But are you? Do you have that one podcast with that name?" And what?
Podcast without a name.
Yeah, so that was fun.
Uh,
How about you?
some of it's been that. I think I've talked about it before. That time when a new coworker came in, and then like he's like, "Oh, you have a podcast? Yeah, what's it called?" And I'm like, "This." I'm like, "Oh, I've been listening to your podcast like for forever." And it turns out that that same colleague had even emailed us very early on. Like I have emails. Like he
Really?
emailed us. He had like used our web form to like have comments and stuff like that. And I was like, "Dude, you
Have
love
we
this
checked
podcast."
that in the past like 2 years?
Well, that's how I stumbled upon it. I'm like, "Dude, you." He's like, "Don't
Wow.
embarrass it." So it's funny, but he's like, "I didn't recognize your voice because he listens at 2x speed." But
Yeah.
he did admit, he's like, "I haven't listened to your podcast in a long time because we've been in lockdown this entire time.
Well, there's some folks.
Only do it when they're in transit."
So I get sometimes people are like, "Oh, I'm listening to the show like slowly." So I'll get comments on an episode like 20 episodes ago, and I'm like, "What? What?" It's like I don't
You
remember saying
realize
that.
how long ago that was for us?
Yeah.
Years, years. Yeah, I feel like, and then yeah, and then I think there was that one surprise, which I guess kind of goes with the metrics that I mentioned earlier while we were recording,
Oh,
which is that time when we were like fourth on technology podcasts
yeah.
on
So
iTunes.
Jack Resider from
Dark
the
Dark
Darknet
Side.
Diaries sent us a message because he's. I mean that podcast is probably in the top point
It
zero
is.
zero zero 0.001%. Like it's probably one of the top podcasts. And he keeps track of these metrics, and I guess he spotted us on the top charts one day. It only lasted a few hours, but it was
Yeah,
very.
that was surprising to me.
I was
Uh,
surprised.
yeah, I think we were all surprised. Also, so thank you, Jeff, for calling that. By the way, his editing, like he's just
Oh no,
great
the production in
storytelling,
that is amazing.
great
Yeah.
storytelling and production. Yeah. So let's see, what else do we have? We talked about the RE recycling. Uh, you have listed on here Asahi Linux.
Oh yes. So I don't know if I've mentioned this before, but Markan on Twitter and we'll link to it, is working, I think, full time on Asahi Linux, which is basically reverse engineering Apple's M1 processor to port Linux to it in like the most legitimate way possible. Like he's
What counts
very,
as legitimate in this context?
as in not as in as legal as humanly possible to so he's actually upstreaming the changes into the Linux kernel. And there's an update. They posted a progress report for August, and I'll have a link in the show notes down below. And it's about basically how he's going about it, and because actually decompiling the drivers and reversing them starts getting tricky as far as copyright, and like Apple might not be cool with that. But he found ways of basically doing a hypervisor and running Mac OS on a hypervisor, and basically just looking at the reads and writes to the hardware or to the co-processors and stuff, and using that to figure out how this works. And he has some long streams on I think on YouTube or Twitch, I forget where. And if you want to kind of see how some reverse engineering gets done, it's not fast, but it is incredibly thorough and detailed, and it's really got good content. But hopefully, in the next year or two, I don't know how long it's going to take, but you'll be able to run Linux natively on your Mac with the M1 processor. And I think they're almost getting an installer ready. Like it's kind of working right now. But I highly recommend everyone to check out that Asahi Linux progress report that they recently posted. And they also they have a Patreon or other ways to support if you're interested.
Nice. Let's see. What else do we have on this list? Things that have recently happened. Hey, you also put on here smart meter hacking.
Yes. Oh yeah. So this is I saw this a while back. Well, a while back, like 2 months ago. But so this is by Hash, which on Twitter is Bit Banging Bytes, is the Twitter handle. And the way I found out about it is I saw an article about the early this year there was a big freeze in Texas. Like it got really cold, and like a bunch of power stations shut down, and they had to cut power to a lot of people. But some places didn't lose power, right? And it was they asked the government, like, or the power company, like, hey, which places have power now? And they're like, oh, we can't tell you, security, whatever. And then there's this guy who all these power meters are transmitting that information wirelessly, and it's like kind of a mesh network kind of dealio. And so he reverse engineered the protocol that these meters use, and it turns out they encode the GPS coordinates of the meter along with how long it's been on. They're transmitting that, right? So he was able to make a Google Earth map that has all these pin drops, and then some are higher than others, and the higher ones are the number of days they've been on.
Okay, so it's basically like a Linux timestamp, like since boot, basically.
I don't know, but I think it's like hours enable or something like that. But then he was able to see like, oh, this bank here or this other office here didn't get shut down during the freeze because it's clearly been on way longer than everything else.
So I'm curious. So how is this being transmitted? It's just Wi-Fi? Is it?
No, it's a 900 megahertz. Like it's a proprietary mesh.
Yes. Okay, so okay.
Yeah,
proprietary mesh, but it's not using like cellular. It's not it's just.
Well, so no, they do. So there's a mesh network. So the meters kind of send to each other. No. It's its own thing. Okay. They actually use. I highly recommend everyone watch the smart meter hacking DEF CON presentation, and I'm linking to it. Okay. And it was really good. But it's basically, if I understood correctly, a geographic, like it actually uses GPS coordinates as part of the routing. So it kind of knows who to send the packets to. And eventually they all do make it, like, I don't know if each neighborhood, or there's a few in each neighborhood, there's another box that receives it. And that's a bridge to cellular network. But it's mostly like a mesh network that these devices kind of talk to each other. The scariest part, though, is like near the end of the video, these devices, like right now, they're just kind of receiving and they understand a few of the packets. And it's all really well documented on their wiki. And it's Recess Sim, like RECESSIM.com.
Yeah.
And again, I'll put the link in the show notes, but they have a really good wiki with all the information basically they're finding out. But one of the things, all these meters can be remotely disconnected. It has a motor that disconnects power, so they can
Yeah.
cut power to your house from remotely. So
Uh-huh.
imagine if this is not authenticated and it's a mesh network, you can't like disconnect it from the network.
Yeah.
You could like turn off someone's power without anyone doing anything about it.
Okay, so let's. One thing that the whole winter storm in Texas revealed to the broader public, I think people who had been looking at this for a while and had been paying attention for various reasons, particularly in California, that we have a fairly antiquated power infrastructure, right? They've been moving to going to these smart meters because it saves people. You know, you used to have a guy that would walk around to each house or multi dwelling unit and like look at do the meter measuring,
Yeah,
and
it's still
that's how
done in
they
many
would do.
countries. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. And so this was supposed to save all that extra having one person do that, and then you'd be able to like figure out like a bunch of metrics based on usage and so forth and so on. So that's what the power meeting was supposed to be. But match that with the fact that most people are not putting in adequate security, which we've always known has been a problem, and with the antiquated systems of the lines and any other parts of the infrastructure, it just kind of like allowing anyone with nefarious purpose to potentially do bad things, obviously.
Well, so from the book I recommended earlier, I would mostly be worried about nation states with lots
Exactly.
and lots of resources that can,
Mm-hmm.
hey, let's drop a few $1 million and a bunch of engineers to just figure this out. And
Yep.
then if we ever want to fuck with someone, they'll
Oh yeah.
let's cut the power to a town, right? And there's many documented
Oh
cases
yeah.
of other like state or nation states, if you will, um, being in
Yep.
other countries' infrastructure, and
Mm-hmm.
sometimes they do like they really
They do.
screwed with Ukraine
Yep.
in a few years ago.
Yep.
Like they like big time. So
Yep.
all these things scare me. But so anyway,
Yeah, it
the
should.
yeah the videos, he's got a few videos explaining different parts of it. He's got like the wiki has photos of all the PCBs, both sides. The components are annotated. It's I really really liked how well documented and how well presented the project was.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah. Not to mention that if you have just knowing some of our utility companies, which I feel like haven't been as heavily regulated as they have in the past, and the fact that people are getting evicted right now um, because of because of all the COVID, people lost their jobs and haven't been able to like pay their rent and so on. That lots of people are getting evicted or behind on their bills. That it also kind of begs the question whether utility companies may take up a policy of just going, "Oh, you're behind, just shut off everything."
Well, you can do it remotely,
Yeah, they've
but
always been able to do it remotely, but like whether
well, not
this is
always. Before they had to go to your place and like
yeah.
disconnect it. Yeah, but I will say I just paid my power bill today, and the power company said, "Hey, did you lose your job? Let us know so we don't cut off your power." Like they do have
Yeah,
some sort of relief. Thank at least here.
in California. Yeah, yeah. I'm really curious to see. But the other thing that kind of going back to like nation states doing this, which is true, nation states are definitely doing like you remember
I mean, so are we, or so is the
like
United
South yeah
States.
like North
Like I'm
Korea
not
for
personally
example.
doing it, but
Yeah, no, I mean some of what the NSA does is this.
a lot of but that's a lot of the book. Like it's all in there.
Yeah, yeah. But what's interesting is that you would see like um, maybe you could correct me on this. If I understood correctly, Russian government would delegate particular groups of hackers, not necessarily affiliated with the government, say, "Hey, go work on this thing, and go
That's
take
I
care of
mean
that."
that's one of the kind of theories, right?
Yeah,
And then you could be like, oh, it wasn't us, or you could be like, just make them do it, right? Like, oh, they're
mm,
not employed by you, but you're coercing them one way or another. And that's the same thing they're saying about other countries as well.
yeah,
That is just they go find the best hackers, and then either they just pay them, or they say like, hey, go do your thing and
yeah,
just give us the information, and we
mm,
won't screw you over, right?
yeah.
Or they just make them do it.
Lots of deflection. Like all I keep thinking of is like that song. It wasn't me. Do, 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 do. Wasn't me. That's all I think about is the people who have everything to benefit from just having someone else do it for them, just so they can have plausible deniability. But anyway, we're once again off topic. Um, that leaves us with what the hell happened this week at the Mountain View Reverse Engineering meetup, which the only reason why we're going to talk about it is because I did it and I'm willing to talk about it. So I went to the meetup, wasn't intending on doing anything, but I had these COVID tests, at-home tests that I've been doing, because I have a generous benefactor that allows me to do that. So I did a teardown of the Q Health disposable side of the module, not the reader, because I have no way of buying another reader to use the rest of to do COVID tests. And, COVID is not gone. Doesn't matter how vaccinated I am, I can still get it and pass it along to somebody. But anyway, so I did an impromptu teardown in real time, was not planning, had not planned, had not done any research on any of it, did the teardown. And, because we're doing this all on Zoom, had lots of people cheering me on and lots of insight from others, which I thought was helpful.
How's your finger?
How's my finger? My finger was tingly for a few hours, but then it got better. So, so maybe we should put more context in this. So, this Q Health, which I think if you go to qhealth.com, is a company that's been exceedingly well funded. It looks like they got 500 million this last round at some point, and they did benefit from the emergency FDA authorization to get these tests rolled out. You cannot buy the test currently. It looks like they started with the COVID test. I do not know. We don't know much what's inside there. But this is probably like a simple assay plus sample test, and it relies heavily on microfluidics to get it done. So the teardown mostly. So what happens is you put the cartridge into the reader, which is a Bluetooth reader that connects to your mobile phone, and you follow the directions on the app. They'll tell you what to do when you put the cartridge in. You don't put the sample in yet, and all it's doing is heating it up. So it's basically priming whatever chemistry that's inside the cartridge to be utilized. Once that's done, then you go ahead and collect the sample, which is really just sticking, a very tiny Q-tip in your nose, dibble-dabbling it around 5 times on each side, and then sliding it in. Now you have to slide it in all the way. And mechanically, when we're doing the teardown, so once you put it in there, it locks in and you can't remove it. So as we're opening it up, I was using a Dremel to do this. I could see the locking mechanism that I was using. The other thing that it had in there, it had a plunger. So as I'm putting it in, it looks like your sample also pushes a small, tiny plunger in, which presumably is forcing the pre-warmed up chemicals to wash across the sample, push that in all the way down to another area where it looks like there was, I really don't know what it was. I think nobody came to any conclusions on there, Alvaro. I don't remember exactly when you arrived on that. When did you arrive in the meeting? Was it after I had already opened it up? I can't remember.
I don't remember, yeah.
Anyway, so there's if you look at the boards, and I'll try to put some pictures. I probably after we're done recording this, I'll still put up something on GitHub with some pictures and maybe the binaries that I gather and so on. But there's a thin PCB on the bottom, and then there's the microfluidics on top with the plunger and everything, and everything kind of flowed down to this little blue square. We're not really sure what it does or what it is, but there was some blue color stuff also on the inside of the cartridge once we removed the plastics. The only chip that appeared to be on there, we quickly identified as an ST24C.
Any problem?
Yeah, basically any problem. I did so, but because I already got some chemistry on my hand, because there's a bunch of stuff. You'll see what I'm talking about if you look at the pictures, audience, if you care. Not a big deal. I don't really know what all this stuff is, but it did get on my glove, and I was using kind of like these vinyl gloves, and it did eat through that, and then I got the finger tingle. And it ate through multiple pairs of gloves that I put on because I kept changing gloves. So maybe not the best thing, but I figured by the time that I had used these packs, once the chemistry kind of gets used, like gets heat up and gets out of the vacuum, it very quickly dissipates. So once you open the package and use everything, the potency tapers off quite quickly. So most of these were from about 5 days. So I didn't think it was going to be that big a deal, but I guess it was. So any of you guys try to do stuff like that, I was talking with my bio friends who work in this area. They said, yeah, you want to use the Nerile for down.
Nitrile, yeah.
Yes, you want to use those types of gloves, because they're basically better for dealing with active chemistry. So anyway, I basically dremeled out from the back from the PCB because there's really nothing else there. The silk screens were all intact, so there wasn't much on there in terms of, there weren't many components applied on the PCB, and the silk screen kind of told you what everything was, like R1, R2, R3, R5. So I just dremeled out the part, popped that in there on Thursday, and extracted all the data that was there, which is about 512 bytes, not a whole lot of stuff. My theory on that is it's probably some calibration data and probably maybe a protocol for how to execute the test, meaning you pop it in there. It says how long to heat things, how to do this, how to do that, and the recipe for carrying out the full test. I need to open, I have about 3 or 4 other ones. I want to open them up and see if they have the same EEPROM values on there, because that would probably indicate more calibration information. But honestly, most of the smarts are probably in the mobile app or getting pulled down every time we do a test from the server backend, is what my theory is. So there may not be a whole lot to reverse engineer, except if I want to start looking at what assay chemistry and so forth. But that's really an online. That's really like me doing online snooping of what they got from the authorization from the FDA. And I think everyone in the meeting was, threw out a lot of really good ideas. We did do since I'm in my garage, I managed to pull out my blacklight to look at whether the plastics that were inside this were
fluorescent.
Reactive. Yeah, were reactive, and they shouldn't be, and they weren't, which is a common problem when designing these, talking with some other people who work in this area. But yeah, that was about it. Just got, probably I think people were taking bets on whether I'd slice off a finger, get hit in the face, because I didn't have proper safety glasses. I just had my scratch chip sunglasses, which I think amused everybody. I didn't injure myself. Nobody died, so I think it was pretty disappointing for everybody. I mean, I wasn't disappointed, but
it was fun. Little remote assists, because it's been all remote.
Yeah.
And there was one in person-ish outdoors last month, right?
Yes, I did not attend. I was busy. How did that one go? I mean, you can't officially say anything. So.
I'm too far away.
Yeah, no car.
Yeah.
Do you have a bike?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I bike around. I take the train. I take the subway. I walk.
I think we've bored the audience enough.
But yeah, I'm gonna actually have to go soon.
Yep.
So, 50th episode. Woo!
Woo!
I think we're
actually
now we can claim it because we're almost done. Yeah.
Yeah. Last thing, since I set it up, this is probably going to be the first of our episodes that gets posted to YouTube in real time. Let's find out if that happens. If you're watching this on YouTube, I guess you'll tell us.
Oh, it's just audio, yeah?
It's just audio. They'll just put a picture up. It's just like another thing that I learned how to do from from going to a conference on making media. Yep. So
all right.
So let's close out the show so you can get the heck out of here. Oh my God, what the hell happened? Hey, we have no guests, so there's no plugging.
We're reading our script. Let the guests plug themselves.
Like for those who ask. we vaguely script the show, but it's only to make sure that we don't start talking about like
Okay,
biking.
so I need to let people know what's going on. So we have a Google Doc that we kind of copy paste, and it has like sections for like the topics we want to cover. Like if we have guests, the show notes, and then there's an outro / reminders. And the first part is let guests plug themselves. The second part, have comments or suggested names for the show.
This is really old because it's kind of a running joke. Will we
And then
ever
it's
be
like
named?
it says find us on Twitter at unnamed_show or hit us up on the comment form,
Which we never will look at.
I don't think we've looked at.
I told you I looked at it like about a couple months ago. I'm like, oh hey, my friend,
Yeah.
my coworker.
So yeah, don't use the comment form. And then we're at unnamedre.com.
Yep.
You can find Jen on Twitter at rebelbotjen, and me, Alvaro, on Twitter at Alvaro Prieto and alvarop.com.
Yep.
Thank you so much to all of our Patreons. Y'all are awesome. And it's sometimes we have some fun conversations. We have a Discord, so if you join our Patreon, you can hop on our Discord server, and there's a bunch of folks there that enjoy reverse engineering.
and then the final thing is we're always looking for reviews about our podcast. So we're on Stitcher, iTunes, Spotify, Google, which is going to change again. It's another thing. I have no idea. We're on Amazon. Put a review out. It could help us. If you put something crazy, maybe we'll read it on the show. Nothing too salacious, because we want to keep it mostly G, except for my random swear.
There was more than usual this time. I was surprised.
What do you mean? I'm swearing more than usual?
Yeah.
I don't think so.
I don't mind it.
When did I swear? I don't remember swearing on this episode.
Good thing I'm going to edit it. You'll get to listen to it when it goes live.
Wait, when did I swear? I swear I don't remember swearing.
Anyway, thank y'all so much. We'll hopefully have another 50 episodes in another 4 years.
Will you be in your 30s? Or will you have proceeded to the 40s? No.
Hopefully. If I'm not in my 30s, I'll be dead.
How many hips will you have left?
Hopefully the same 2 that I have now. But yeah, okay. We've really gone off the rails.
Okay.
All right. See you later, everyone.
Bye.